The station hung like a small jewel against the endless black of space. Metallic walkways crisscrossed its surface, and countless ships of different shapes and sizes moved slowly, docking and undocking, their engines humming in a deep, resonant rhythm. Humans were a minority here. Most of the travelers were of species with scales, multiple limbs, or eyes that glowed in colors that no human mind could easily describe. The human pilot, Aiden, felt slightly out of place, as he always did, but it was routine for him. He had spent most of his life delivering supplies across dangerous sectors. Today, it was only a stopover, a chance to refuel, grab a hot meal, and continue to the next trade post. Aiden moved through the concourse, his boots clanging softly on the metal floors. His eyes scanned for his contact. A representative from the medical supply division. The station was crowded, but not unusually so for this sector. The alien merchants called out in languages he could not begin to understand, and holographic signs shifted and flickered above him, advertising everything from exotic spices to rare machinery parts. It was a symphony of chaos. But it was normal. Until it wasn't. A sudden shriek pierced the ambient noise, followed by the clatter of running feet. Security drones whirred loudly, their lights flashing red as they zoomed past. Aliens screamed and scattered, some colliding into one another, others leaping over railings and rail systems. Aiden froze for a heartbeat, processing what was happening. Then, he saw her. The child was no taller than his waist, with skin that shimmered faintly like wet moonlight. Her large eyes, reflective and luminous, were wide with terror. Her small hands flailed as she struggled to keep her balance amid the throng of panicked aliens. Her movement was instinctive, uncoordinated, and utterly vulnerable. Without thinking, Aiden sprinted toward her. He slid under a rushing merchant who had tripped over his own robes, scooped the child into his arms, and shielded her body with his own. The child froze at first, her large eyes staring into his. Aiden felt a wave of responsibility crush down on him. He had no idea whose child she was or why she was alone, but instinct told him she would not survive if left where she was. The crowd pressed around him like a river of living metal. He pushed through, feeling panic rising in him. Not his own, but the child's. She whimpered softly, a sound so small it was almost drowned out by the shouting around them. Then, impossibly, she whispered a single word, barely audible over the chaos. Aiden froze. The word hung in the air, echoing strangely in his mind. He looked down at her, expecting some mistake, some confused muttering. But the intensity of her gaze was undeniable. She clung to him as if her life depended on it. Around him, others were frozen too. Some humans stared in disbelief. But the alien onlookers, countless shapes, sizes, and species, stood as though rooted to the floor. Whispers spread like fire across the concourse. Humans were not known to bond with alien children, especially not in such an immediate, instinctive way. Aiden's first instinct was to set her down. "It's okay," he murmured. "You're safe. I'll help you." But the child's grip tightened around him, small fingers digging into his jacket. Her body trembled, and he realized the panic that had driven the crowd had not reached her yet. She was calm now, but only because she was with him. That thought alone sent a shiver down his spine. Then, from the far end of the concourse, movement caught his eye. A tall figure emerged, striding over the chaos with precision. The being was clearly the mother, or at least, someone in charge of the child. Her skin glowed faintly, reflecting the station lights. And her form was elegant, disciplined. Unlike the others who had scattered, she did not run. She did not even seem afraid. Her eyes, wide and sharp, locked onto the child in Aiden's arms, and for a moment, everything slowed. Time itself seemed to pause. The mother stopped abruptly. She froze mid-step, her mouth opening slightly, but no sound came out. Her entire body stiffened, every limb locked in place. Aiden noticed the alien eyes were no longer just observing, they were searching, analyzing, struggling to comprehend. The child, sensing the presence of her mother, whispered again, "Dad." and clung tighter. The sound was not just a word. It was a connection, a bond that transcended species. Security drones began scanning the area, their sensors pinging. Alien officers shouted commands in a language Aiden could not understand. Panic rose again around them, but he felt a strange calm wash over him. It was as if all the chaos had melted away when he held her. He looked down at the small being in his arms. Her eyes reflected pure trust. Something rare, precious, and fragile. That trust anchored him. He had been trained to save lives, but he had never experienced anything like this. The mother finally spoke, but her voice was strange, soft, almost melodic, yet broken with hesitation. Aiden could not understand her words, but the emotion was clear. Confusion. Shock. A kind of awe. Her species, from what he had read in rare reports, had strict rules about child rearing. Only biological parents could ever elicit such trust. And yet here was a human, holding her child, and the child's response defied all known science. Aiden shifted the child gently, trying to comfort her. "I don't know what's happening," he admitted aloud, though there was no one to hear him. "I'm just trying to keep you safe." The child nuzzled into his chest, her small hands clutching the fabric of his jacket. She made no sound, but her calmness seemed to radiate outward. People around them instinctively slowed, stepping back, their attention captured by the strange human-child connection. The mother took a step forward, still frozen in a mixture of disbelief and awe. She reached toward the child, but her own limbs refused to obey. Every alien in the concourse, merchants, travelers, guards, watched silently. Even the station cameras seemed to pause, as if the universe itself recognized the moment as extraordinary. Aiden did not flinch. He did not speak. He simply held the child and let the connection exist. He realized that in all his years of flying across dangerous sectors, delivering supplies to desperate colonies, and rescuing people caught in disasters, he had never understood what true trust could look like until now. And in that trust, he felt something he had long buried. Hope. Then a sharp voice cut through the tense silence, an alien officer commanding him to release the child. Aiden shook his head. "No. I'm not letting her go," he said, his voice calm but firm. "She's safe with me." The officer hesitated. The child's mother, still unable to move, watched with wide eyes. Aiden realized something important. He was no longer just a human pilot in a strange sector. He was the protector of something rare, something pure, something that the galaxy had not seen before. A bond that could not be explained by biology or politics. Only instinct, only care. Minutes passed like hours. The crowd's panic faded to whispers. Security forces assessed the situation, unsure how to act. The child rested in Aiden's arms, eyes closed now. Completely at peace, the mother finally found her voice, though it was strained and uncertain. "How?" she began, but the words failed her. She looked at the human holding her child, at the quiet calm he projected, and she realized something she had never considered. This species, this human, could do what her people had long thought impossible: protect, love, understand. Aiden glanced up at the mother, offering a simple nod. He did not speak her language, but he did not need to. His actions said more than words ever could. "She's safe," he repeated softly. And somehow, across the barriers of species, the meaning was clear. Trust had been established, and it would not be broken lightly. Around them, the station slowly returned to order. Some aliens whispered among themselves, others gawked, and humans stared, half in fear, half in awe. Yet nothing could shake the connection in Aiden's arms. The child stirred slightly, opening her large, luminous eyes and glancing up at him once more. She whispered the word again, this time almost a plea. "Dad." Aiden swallowed, his heart tightening. He did not know what the future held. He did not know who the child really was, or why the universe had placed her in his arms, but in that instant, he made a silent promise. No matter what came next, he would protect her. He would not let fear or rules or logic dictate what he knew instinctively. She belonged in safety. And for now, that safety was with him. The mother stepped forward finally, though her body trembled with hesitation. She reached out, as if to take her child, but paused. She had been trained to retrieve her young in a controlled, precise manner. Yet something in the human's calm, unwavering presence stopped her. The child did not resist her, but she did not let go either. She looked to the human, her luminous eyes filled with clarity and certainty. "Dad," she whispered once more, a word that carried the weight of galaxies in its simplicity. Aiden held her tighter, feeling the small heartbeat against his chest. Around them, the world seemed to pause, waiting for the impossible to resolve itself. And for the first time in his life, he realized something profound. Humans were fragile. Humans were small. Humans were young. But humans could care in ways that no machine, no alien protocol, and no law could ever fully understand. And right now, that care was stronger than anything else in the universe. The station was tense. Alarms had stopped, but the hum of confusion lingered in every corridor. Security forces moved carefully, scanning the crowds, whispering commands in alien tongues. Merchants hastily packed up stalls, and travelers glanced nervously over their shoulders. Aiden stood in the center of it all, the small alien child still in his arms, her fingers clutching the fabric of his jacket, as though letting go would mean disappearing from the universe. The mother's eyes never left them. She had finally moved closer, her body still rigid with disbelief. She had expected fear, screaming, or even anger from the child. But there was none. The little one was calm, serene almost, as if she had always known that the human holding her was safe. The mother stepped forward slowly, her voice catching, shaky and strained. She should not, she broke off, unsure how to complete her sentence. The human tried to meet her gaze, but her expression was unreadable. Her species had rules, strict and unbending, about child bonding. Only parents could evoke such responses, and yet, the child in his arms had whispered a word, soft, yet impossible. "Dad." The mother could neither move fully forward, nor speak clearly. Her species had evolved emotional control to perfection, but this moment had broken every rule she had been taught since birth. Aiden shifted slightly, careful not to disturb the child, who now rested her head on his shoulder, eyes half closed. "She's safe," he said softly, knowing the words would not be understood directly but hoping the meaning would reach her through tone. The mother's eyes flickered, the faintest shimmer of understanding crossing her features. She had been trained to assess threats logically, not emotionally, yet something in the human's calm defiance told her that he meant exactly what he said. The commotion drew a small crowd. Other humans and aliens stopped to stare. Whispers spread through the station like static on a radio. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were generally considered weak, incapable of handling situations involving advanced alien species. Yet here was one, standing firmly in the center of chaos, refusing to relinquish the child. Not out of stubbornness, but out of instinct. A wave of unease passed through the gathering crowd. If the human could defy expectation this easily, what else could he do? A sharp whistle cut through the air, and several alien officers approached. Their multi-limbed forms moved with precision and authority. Weapons holstered but at the ready, they had been sent to retrieve the child and ensure the human complied with protocol. The lead officer, a towering being with iridescent skin that shifted colors like liquid glass, stopped a few steps away and regarded Aiden. "Release the child," the officer commanded. Voice low but firm, resonating in tones humans could only approximate as calm authority. Aiden shook his head, tightening his hold slightly without harming her. "I can't. She's safe with me. I won't let her go until I know she's protected." The officer's eyes narrowed. Such defiance from a human was rare, but not unheard of. What unsettled him, however, was the child's reaction. Her trembling had stopped entirely, The faint glow of her skin seemed steadier, calmer than it had ever been around any alien. Sensors built into the station, designed to measure stress and emotional fluctuations, picked up an anomaly. The child's heart rate and biofeedback were at perfect calm, even in the presence of armed officers. The station doctors would later call it impossible. But at that moment, the officer had no words, only observation. The mother finally moved closer, though slowly, carefully, as if her own body could betray her if she acted too quickly. She reached toward the child, but the little one did not stir, nor did she resist. Her glowing eyes focused entirely on Aiden. And she whispered again, almost as a question, "Dad?" The mother froze mid-step. Her training told her to retrieve the child, to assert her parental control. Yet the child's loyalty to this human could not be ignored. Aiden knelt slightly, lowering himself to the child's level. "I don't know why you said that," he murmured softly, "but I will protect you. I promise. No one will hurt you." The child's tiny hands clutched him tighter, and a small glow radiated from her skin. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but enough to make those standing nearby pause. Humans had no measurable control over alien biology, or so the doctrine said, but here was a human affecting a child in ways no scientist had predicted. The crowd's whispers grew louder. Some of the aliens shifted uneasily, unsure if they should intervene or step back. Humans rarely showed such care, such instinctive protective strength. Many species relied on logic, protocol, or genetic imperatives to dictate behavior. But humans acted on empathy, sometimes even against self-interest. It was dangerous in its unpredictability, and yet it was powerful. The mother's voice finally returned, weak but audible. How is this possible?" she asked. Her tone was a mixture of disbelief and wonder. Aiden did not answer, because he could not. He did not know why the child had trusted him, why she had whispered that word, why her biology responded to him so differently. He only knew instinctively that she needed him now, and he could not abandon her. One of the officers took a cautious step forward, reaching toward the child. Aiden straightened slightly, his voice calm but firm. "Back," he said. "I'm not letting her go until it's safe." The officer hesitated. Again, the anomaly was obvious. The child's calm radiated outward, affecting those near her. Aggression waned. Even the officer felt the unusual stillness settle over him, dampening the instinct to act immediately. Minutes stretched like hours. Aiden remained kneeling, holding the child, speaking softly in a language she could not understand fully but could feel. She leaned into him, her glow dimming and rising with each calm breath. Slowly, the mother inched closer. She had been trained to see emotional bonds as tools, yet she saw something deeper here, an innate care that transcended rules, species, and logic. She could see it in his eyes, steady and unwavering. Finally, she stepped fully forward, placing a hand near the child without touching. Her fingers hovered, trembling slightly, yet the child did not flinch. The word "Dad" escaped her lips again, soft and confident, and this time the mother did not freeze. Instead, her eyes glistened with understanding. The child's trust was not a mistake, not a glitch in alien biology. It was proof of something her species had long thought extinct: the human capacity to protect, to bond, and to care without restriction. Aiden looked up at her, not in challenge, but in quiet reassurance. "She's safe," he said again. The mother's gaze softened, and she stepped back, allowing the human to remain as he was. Around them, the station slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy. The panic had dissipated, but the memory of the moment lingered, charged and profound. The officers withdrew slightly, unsure how to proceed. They had been trained to follow orders, yet here was a human holding a child with no visible authority, no weapons, and yet an undeniable power of trust. Even they could not dismiss it. The child stirred, opening her eyes fully and looking at her mother. then back at Aiden. She whispered once more, her voice carrying clarity and certainty. "Dad." The mother's heart ached. Not with fear, but with awe. For the first time in her life, she realized that the rules she had followed, the doctrines she had believed, did not account for the unpredictable strength of a human's instinct. Aiden rose slowly, careful not to disturb her, and looked around. "We need to get out of here," he said softly. He did not yet know where here was safe, but instinct told him movement was necessary. Before authorities could make more decisions, the mother hesitated, torn between duty and the truth she had just witnessed. She wanted to take the child, to assert control. Yet she also knew that this human would keep her safe, and perhaps, for the first time, she understood that safety did not always come from following rules. It came from understanding, from care, from presence. The child clung to him as they began moving. Aiden navigated through the concourse carefully, weaving between cautious onlookers. The mother followed silently, her every step measured, not interfering but staying close enough to intervene if necessary. Other humans in the area watched with awe, while alien travelers whispered quietly to each other. Something extraordinary was happening here. Something that defied protocol, science, and expectation. And for Aiden, it was simple. He did not know why she trusted him. He did not know why the child's biology seemed to respond to him, why her mother could not intervene fully. All he knew was that she was safe in his arms. That was enough. That was what mattered. That was human. The station slowly quieted behind them, the echoes of chaos fading. But the story was far from over. Outside, beyond the station walls, the galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unforgiving. And somewhere out there, forces both curious and hostile would take notice of what had just happened. Humans had shown their strength. But this was only the beginning. The humans' instinctive courage and care would soon be tested in ways that no protocol, no rule, and no species could predict. And as the child nestled closer, whispering once more in a voice filled with trust and certainty, Aiden realized something profound. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The station corridors stretched on, metallic and echoing, but Aiden moved steadily, careful to avoid drawing unnecessary attention. The child in his arms slept lightly, her small body relaxed, yet clinging to him, as if he were the only anchor in an uncertain universe. The mother followed a few steps behind, silent and watchful. Her usual composure was fractured. She had never seen her child so calm around anyone who was not her genetic parent. Something about this human stirred a bond that her species had long believed extinct, and it both fascinated and terrified her. Aiden's mind raced, though his voice remained calm when he spoke softly to the child. "You're safe, I promise. I won't let anything happen to you." The words were simple, but they carried a weight that few in the station could understand. For humans, instinctive protection was natural, yet here it seemed almost alien to the species around him. He had rescued humans before, even children from other human colonies, but this was different. This child was not human. Yet she trusted him completely. The mother struggled with the conflicting emotions coursing through her. She had been trained to evaluate and control every interaction with her child, yet no matter how hard she tried, she could not force the bond between human and child to break. Every instinct she had screamed that the human could be dangerous, yet every rational calculation told her he was not. He had no weapons, no authority, no standing, but he held her child, and the child's calm, steady glow was proof enough that he meant no harm. Aiden paused at a corner, listening. Voices approached, low but hurried. Several officers, armed and multi-limbed, moved quickly through the corridors. They had traced the child's presence, alerted by the unusual readings the station sensors had recorded. The officers did not know what to expect from the human holding her, and that uncertainty made them cautious. They had been trained to handle emergencies, but nothing in their manuals described a human with a child like this, an alien child, whose very being responded to him in ways they could not predict. Aiden didn't wait to be confronted. He moved silently, weaving through maintenance tunnels and service corridors that few others used. The child stirred again, blinking sleepily at him, her small hand brushing against his cheek. Her glow pulsed gently, almost as if she were breathing with him, syncing her presence to his. He felt a strange warmth spreading through him, a connection that was as much emotional as it was instinctive. He did not fully understand it, but he knew its power. Behind them, the mother watched with a mixture of awe and fear. She could see the reactions in the officers now. Hesitation, confusion, even a kind of respect. Her own people revered control, precision, and predictability. Humans defied all three. She realized that the child's trust in him was not simply affection, it was a recognition of a protector, a force that no training or rule could manufacture. And yet, she could not interfere, for fear of disrupting the bond that had already been established. They reached a quiet maintenance bay, and Aiden set the child down gently on a padded surface. She looked up at him, eyes still luminous and full of trust. "I'll stay with you," he whispered. She leaned forward, resting her head lightly on his chest again. The mother stepped closer, carefully, without touching the child, her eyes scanning every gesture, every movement, trying to understand. This is impossible," the mother murmured, finally speaking aloud. Her voice, melodic yet strained, carried through the empty corridor. "She should not recognize you. She should not bond with you like this." Aiden looked at her steadily, but he shook his head. "I don't know why, but she trusts me. That's all I need to know. She's safe." The mother's gaze softened, though she did not relax completely. She had never seen her child at such ease outside of controlled environments. Her species had always prioritized survival over emotion. Children were trained to suppress irrational attachments, to respond only to genetic parents or authorized guardians. But here was a human, an outsider, eliciting a reaction that defied generations of breeding and training. The realization unsettled her more than she wanted to admit. A distant alarm echoed through the station, faint but insistent. The officers were regrouping, and they would not wait long before they acted. Aiden stood, holding the child again, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He did not know how long he could evade them, or what they would do when they caught up. But he knew one thing. He could not, would not, let harm come to her. The trust she had placed in him was sacred. The mother stepped forward fully now, speaking more clearly, though her words were still hesitant. "You cannot understand," she said softly. "Our species, we have rules. You are not allowed to hold her. You are not allowed to be her protector. This is wrong." Aiden shook his head gently, kneeling again so he was at her child's level. "Maybe your rules aren't the only way," he said simply. "Maybe what matters is that she is safe, and she trusts me." "That's enough." The child's glow intensified slightly, as if responding to his words. She whispered once more, "Dad," and pressed closer against him. The mother froze, again, but this time the emotion in her gaze was different. It was recognition. The human was not her enemy. He was not a threat. He was something else, something she had never accounted for. A protector. Someone whose instinct to care and defend was more powerful than the strictest protocols of her species. Suddenly, the corridor doors opened violently. The officers had arrived, moving with calculated precision. But even they hesitated when they saw the scene. A human, unarmed, holding a child who glowed faintly with calm, and a mother who could not act. Their training offered no solution. They were caught between orders and an unprecedented biological response. Aiden stood, holding the child protectively, and faced them. "I will not let her be taken," he said. His voice was steady, calm, unwavering. The officers paused, unsure if they should push forward. Any aggressive move could provoke a reaction from the child, and they had no idea what she might do. Her species' defenses were ancient and complex, designed to protect against predators, but humans had never been accounted for. The mother moved closer, her hand near but not touching her child. "You are strange," she said softly, almost to herself. "I do not understand. How can you be like this?" Aiden looked down at her child, then at her. "I don't know," he admitted. "I just do what feels right. I protect those who cannot protect themselves." The officers exchanged cautious signals. One stepped forward, hand extended, ready to grab the child. The mother's eyes widened in alarm, and for the first time, Aiden saw fear cross her face, not for herself, but for her child. He tightened his hold instinctively. "Do not come any closer," he warned. "She is not yours to command right now. She's safe with me." A quiet hum began to resonate from the child. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it pulsed through the air, enough to make the officers pause again. Sensors registered the change. The child's calm and trust were now radiating outward, affecting everyone in the immediate area. Even the mother felt it. Her heart, trained to regulate emotion, skipped involuntarily. She realized that this human's presence was altering her child in ways that were impossible to quantify, impossible to control. The officers stopped, unsure of how to proceed. Aiden did not move. He simply held the child, watching them with steady, unwavering eyes. The mother, her own body trembling slightly, finally took a step back. She could no longer force the situation, nor could she deny what she had just witnessed. The bond between human and child was real, undeniable, and stronger than any protocol, rule, or threat. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The officers eventually withdrew slightly, signaling to regroup, while the mother stayed close, silent now, watching her child with awe. The child's glow dimmed to a gentle, steady pulse, her small hand resting lightly on Aiden's chest. She whispered again, almost a confirmation, "Dad." The word hung in the corridor like a promise. Aiden knelt once more, speaking softly. "I don't know what tomorrow brings," he said, "but right now, you are safe. I will not let anything happen to you." The child leaned closer, eyes reflecting absolute trust. The mother finally lowered her hand completely, understanding that for the first time in generations, instinctive care had triumphed over rigid rules. Beyond the corridors, the galaxy awaited. Forces both curious and hostile would notice this event, and soon. But in that moment, nothing mattered except the trust between a human and a child, a bond that had defied every expectation, rule, and prediction. And for Aiden, it was enough to know that humans could protect, care, and love in ways no machine or protocol could ever replicate. The corridors of the station were quieter now, but the tension remained thick in the air. Aiden moved carefully, holding the child close, her small hands gripping his jacket as though afraid he might vanish. Behind him, her mother followed silently, observing every step with careful attention. She had learned something profound in the last hours. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but their strength was not in weapons or numbers. It was in their care, their instinct to protect, their ability to act without expectation of reward. Aiden glanced down at the child. Her luminous eyes reflected a mixture of curiosity and calm. "We're going to be okay," he whispered. "I promise." She pressed her forehead gently against his chest, her tiny fingers brushing against the fabric of his uniform. In that touch, he felt a connection that transcended language, species, and logic. She trusted him completely, and that trust carried more weight than any protocol, any authority, any weapon in the galaxy. The mother's eyes softened as she watched the scene. She could not deny the bond, no matter how much her species prized control and logic. For centuries, her people had believed emotional attachments beyond bloodlines were dangerous, inefficient, or impossible. And yet, here was a human, unarmed and ordinary by all appearances, holding her child in a way that no one else had ever managed. The child's calm radiance seemed to radiate outward, touching everyone nearby. Even the officers who had come to retrieve her hesitated, unsure how to act against a force they could not understand. The station's communications systems crackled. Over the intercom came the voice of the station commander, calm but firm. "All personnel, stand down. Situation contained." The officers lowered their weapons, exchanging confused glances. They had expected resistance, perhaps even aggression. Yet here was a human, holding a child, and no one had attacked. The calm that spread from the child and the human in her arms seemed to ripple through the station itself. Aiden's gaze shifted toward the mother. "I think she's ready," he said softly. "I don't know why she trusts me so easily, but we'll figure it out together." The mother took a tentative step forward, finally crossing the invisible barrier she had maintained for so long. Her fingers hovered over the child's shoulders, and for the first time, the child leaned slightly toward her. The trust that had existed between human and child was not broken, it was expanding, becoming a three-way bond that defied every expectation. Outside the station, the galaxy continued its endless motion. But news of the incident had already begun to spread. Reports filtered through interstellar channels. First as confusion, then as fascination. Humans had been underestimated for decades, regarded as unpredictable and primitive. Yet here was proof of something far greater. Their instinct to protect, to care, to connect with beings completely unlike themselves. Analysts speculated, scientists recalculated models, and diplomats whispered urgently to one another. A single human, in a quiet corridor of a remote station, had altered perceptions of an entire species' capability. The mother finally spoke, her voice trembling slightly, though her tone was no longer one of command but of acknowledgement. "You have shown something my people thought lost," she said softly. "We have trained children to suppress instinctive trust, to obey only genetic bonds. But this is different. She recognizes what she needs, and you have given her that." Aiden nodded, his expression calm, almost humble. "I didn't do anything special," he said. "I just cared. That's all humans can do." The child stirred, looking from Aiden to her mother and back again. Her glow pulsed gently, a sign of comfort and understanding. She whispered once more, softly, clearly, "Dad." The mother's eyes glistened. She stepped closer, gently placing her hand on the child's other shoulder. The child pressed her small forehead against Aiden's chest one last time, and the human felt an unspoken promise pass between them all. Safety, trust, and care were not confined by species, rules, or fear. Aiden realized something in that moment. This was what humanity offered to the galaxy. Not the biggest ships, the strongest weapons, or the cleverest machines, but the willingness to act on instinct, to protect, to love, even when it was difficult or dangerous. That instinct was unpredictable, yes, but it was powerful. More powerful than any machine, more powerful than any protocol, because it could change minds, calm hearts, and create bonds that could not be broken. The mother nodded slowly, understanding at last. "We will honor your care," she said, voice firm now, confident. "You have shown our people something they have long forgotten. Perhaps it is time to reconsider what strength truly is." She stepped back slightly, giving Aiden space, but her eyes remained on him. There was respect there, awe, and even gratitude. The child, sensing the shift, smiled faintly, pressing against him one final time. Aiden rose fully, holding her carefully. The station had returned to relative calm. Officers withdrew, travelers resumed their paths, and merchants cautiously reopened their stalls. Yet the echoes of the moment lingered, as though the station itself had been changed. Humans, the galaxy realized, were more than simple creatures. They were protectors, empathetic and unpredictable, capable of forging bonds that defied science and logic alike. Outside, ships waited, engines humming, ready to resume their endless journeys. Aiden prepared to leave, carrying the child gently. She nestled against him, her trust absolute, her quiet glow steady. The mother followed to the docking bay, silent but present, a witness to what had happened. She had seen the impossible, and she understood it fully now. A human's care could protect in ways no technology, no rule, no training could replicate. When they reached the ship, Aiden carefully placed the child inside, making sure she was secure. "We're going home," he whispered. She looked up at him with luminous eyes, whispered once more, "Dad." The word carried not just affection, but certainty, understanding, and trust. It was a word that could change a lifetime, a species, even a galaxy. The mother stood nearby, watching, her hands folded respectfully. She had come to understand that authority and control were not the only measures of strength. Sometimes, the quiet instinct to care, the simple act of holding someone in your arms, was enough to alter the course of events, to teach lessons that no manual ever could. Aiden climbed into the pilot's seat, carefully securing the child in the co-pilot harness. The mother nodded once, a silent acknowledgement of respect and understanding. "May your care continue to guide her," she said softly. "You have shown our people what we have long forgotten." The engines roared to life, shaking the ship gently. Lights flickered across the hull, reflecting the vast black of space beyond. Aiden's hands gripped the controls, his mind steady, calm. He glanced down at the child, who looked up at him with eyes full of trust. "We'll be okay," he said again. "I promise." She nodded faintly, the faint glow of her skin pulsing gently. The mother watched from the docking bay as the ship slowly lifted off. Her heart lightened in a way she had never imagined possible. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. The bond between human and child, the quiet courage of care, and the undeniable strength that comes not from weapons, rank, or numbers, but from instinct and empathy. As the ship drifted into open space, Aiden looked ahead at the stars, feeling the weight of the moment. He had no idea what awaited them in the wider galaxy, no knowledge of the challenges they would face, no certainty of safety. Yet he knew one truth. As long as he cared, as long as he protected, as long as he acted with empathy, he and the child could face anything together. She shifted slightly, resting her small head against his shoulder, whispering once more in a voice soft yet resolute, "Dad." The word echoed in his mind, a simple affirmation of trust, connection, and love that transcended species. Aiden smiled faintly, feeling a warmth that no star could match. The mother's words lingered in his memory, even as the stars stretched endlessly ahead. "You have shown our people what we have long forgotten. Perhaps it is time to reconsider what strength truly is." Aiden understood now. Strength was not power. Strength was protection, care, and the courage to act, even when no one else expected it. And humans, unpredictable and seemingly ordinary, carried that strength in abundance. The child stirred again, her small hand brushing against his chest, a gentle reminder of the trust she had placed in him. He adjusted his grip, securing her safely, and looked out at the vast expanse of space. Ahead lay unknown worlds, dangers, challenges, and wonders. But he was no longer alone, and neither was she. Together, they would face whatever came, guided by instinct, courage, and a bond that defied logic. And somewhere far away, her mother watched, understanding fully that the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. They were more than unpredictable. They were protectors. They were capable of love, care, and courage beyond measure. And in that realization, hope bloomed quiet, steady, and enduring. The ship's engines hummed steadily, carrying them into the unknown. A human and a child, connected in trust, guided by instinct, and ready to face a galaxy that had just begun to understand the quiet, extraordinary strength of humanity.